I was really good at math. So for me, it was really easy to do. But it wasn't something I saw myself doing like 20 years from now. Graphic design, IT, user experience, user interface, early on, those were things, first of all, really fresh on the market and new. It was kind of clear that the marketing and the technology is the new oil, let's say. It was also a full green field, like everything was a discovery,
Hello, and welcome to another Europreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nir Zavar from EO Israel. And as you know, every week I get the chance to spend almost an hour talking to interesting entrepreneurs from all over Europe, different chapters, different stories, different businesses. And today I have a special guest. You know, every time I read your name, Loredana, I have to divide it. You know, it feels like I have to. How are you?
Hi, Nir. Thanks for inviting me. I'm well, thank you.
Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm at home. I'm in Romania.
In Bucharest?
Yes, in Bucharest, Romania. This is my home base.
I might visit you soon, I think.
Oh, I look forward. Please
I was
share
there.
when you're coming.
I would love to. So, as you know, every show is about another EO member and their stories. And I feel that there's something about asking you to do an unplanned elevator pitch and kind of like get us into the groove of who you are, what you do, your business, and we'll take it from there. Are you ready?
For sure.
All
So,
yours.
my name is Loredana Elena Niculae. My friends call me Lori. My EO friends also call me Lori. I actually just changed my name on Slack. I'm an entrepreneur. I realized this when I tried to be an employee. I was going through all of the management and leadership and so on, but I realized I need more time for my daughter. So I switched to entrepreneurship. I launched a few businesses in consulting and marketing consulting, business consulting and coaching. In technology, actually, in IT, I even exited a software development company. But let's say I have more initiatives. The ones that are closer to my heart are an organic food store and a school, a Waldorf school, which is an alternative education system. I'm the founder of a Waldorf school that turned 10 years old. Every business is kind of like my baby, so I can talk for hours for each one of those.
How did you
But
start? How did you start? What was the first, like, what was your journey? What did you study?
okay, so I studied. I'm from a small town in Romania, in the Moldavian part of Romania. Not many people know that there's a Moldavian part of Romania. Moldavia is actually split in two, one which is a republic right now, and another one which is part of Romania. My journey started in Roman, in Moldova, and I came in the capital city, where all the big dreams come true. To study for my academic degree in economics. My parents didn't have money to give me for the train, so I had to work for the whole summer to teach other kids. And to come so that I have money for the train. I got to Bucharest. I took my exams. It was one of the most competitive back then, financing and banking. Post-communist, there were just like free universities that everybody wanted to be in. Financing and banking was one. There was the medicine, and then there was the legal.
And what was the situation in Romania in those days? When you go studying, I assume it's not like a normal capitalist, like your post-communism. What's the vibe there?
Oh, it was so difficult. I can tell you. I had teachers and manuals that were still teaching communist economy in a capitalist world, which was crazy. And because I also had to work quite a bit to be able to go through university, actually, I had 3 jobs in parallel, 2 in the daytime and 1 in the nighttime. My mom still keeps a pair of shoes that are broken from how much I was walking around because I was a sales agent for a cosmetic company. And she remembers that when she visited me, I had those broken shoes, and she kept them even today to show everybody how I was working. So it was
What
rather
makes
crazy.
what makes a young person like yourself want to study, work 3 jobs? What? How do you get that grit to keep going? Why? What's the incentive for you?
Uh, First of all, I think you have to become a free person. And I became a free person when I had to sleep 3 nights under a staircase because I didn't have money to even pay for the how do you call
The rent,
student housing.
housing. Wow,
Okay,
crazy.
so I slept for 3 days under a stair, and I realized how little you need actually to live. You you really can live outside. Like, I didn't consider, and I never considered myself a homeless person, but still I lived. I can consider that I lived for 3 days, 3 nights like this. So when you become free, um, then you realize that everything else is an opportunity. Now, some of it was real basic needs, like, need for food and for housing and things like that. But some of it was passion. So, for example, in the daytime, I was running around, as a sales agent and so on. But in the night, I was actually helping other students do their paperwork, like their diploma, I was typing it on the computer and so on. Not too many had this skill. And while doing that, I realized I can do really amazing thing with graphic design, which back then was really just starting. And I was doing a lot of graphic design and video editing really early on. And that sort of became a passion, and it was really easy for me to do. There weren't that many people that could do that. And when I had to decide between a job in accounting and a job in a marketing department in an IT company, it was really easy to choose. So I switched. Actually, I started the career in accounting, but I switched to marketing. Then it was really, the progress was really easy. I was learning from people that came with capital in investments from Canada, from the US. So I was really advanced against our compared to other people from the market. So I accumulated a lot of knowledge, but I also like to be in touch with amazing people, from all over the world. Our department, for example, in one of the first jobs I had in IT, was made out of 5 people that were from Australia, from New Zealand, it was amazing. But just
But
a
when you
small,
started,
yeah,
when
just a,
you started doing the graphic, you were doing that alone or in a company?
I actually wanted to mention that when I started to do graphic design, I made it myself. At that time, I switched from being a sales agent to the accounting. And daytime, I was doing accounting. Nighttime, I started doing graphic design, like small business cards and so on, editing. In accounting, I got to a salary which was really high back then, like $500. I know it sounds amazing, but I started from like $20. So 500 was exponential growth. And I gave up a $500 salary to get a $50 job in this marketing department. And in 6 months, I became the marketing manager of that department. So I made the right choice. But it's not often that I give up money for things that I love, let's
So
say.
here's a question. Many people that will watch, listen now, will say, "Yeah, I have these opportunities to do something I love or I'm interested in, but I have this gold cage where I make money." When you sat there and you had to make a decision, why did you say, "You know what? I'll skip the 500, go back to 50. It will be okay." What were the things you were thinking about?
Um, a question that came to me, but I didn't. I learned it later on from many people, but back then it was like sort of intuitive. To me, was what keeps me up at night, and accounting tried to keep me up at night. Like we had some complicated financial situations at the end of the month and so on. I was really good at math, so for me it was really easy to do, but it wasn't something I saw myself doing like 20 years from now. Graphic design, IT, user experience, user interface, early on, those were things, first of all, really fresh on the market and new. It was kind of clear that the marketing and the technology is the new oil, let's say, and it was also a full green field. Like everything was a discovery. Every space you wanted to explore, you had first of all enough opportunities, but then it was all green field, so it was all written from scratch. I was, for example, our company, the one that I was initially hired to, did the first SMS games for Coca-Cola. If you remember, those during the World Championship of football, you had to SMS something that you found on a Coca-Cola cap. That was the platform, the user experience, and all of that. That's something I designed, and I didn't have any experience. Like everything was so rudimentary, but it was enough to make it through, and it was one of the first ones available. Now that technology is part of Logica CMG, which is one of the biggest technology providers for mobile carriers in the world. Um,
But someone came to you and said, "Hey, we have this project for Coca-Cola for the World Cup," and you said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it."
um, I was in this marketing department when this happened, and there was a mixed leadership between a Canadian CEO, which was very marketing, business oriented, and product focused, and a Danish technical CTO. And when they came with this situation, they were like, there's this Coca-Cola campaign. Guys, we have the technology, but we don't have the interface. What do we do? I was already designing user interface for that platform, and I was like, we kind of have like 70% of that. I believe that we can pull this through. I think like for 2 months we slept in the office, but it ran through the whole. We didn't thought it will fly, to tell you the truth.
Oh, interesting. I'll tell you why I'm asking. A few years ago, we were doing, so I own a marketing agency called Streetwise, and we're doing a lot of projects, and it's scaling and it's moving. And we get a call from someone says, "Hey, I need you to come to a meeting. Joining a company, and I want you to do all the marketing." I'm like, "Sweet." We go in, we don't understand a single word from what they're saying. We don't understand the jargon, the words, nothing. The meeting ends. I stay there with that guy and the CEO, and he says, "Is Nir the guy for us?" And he says, "Yes." So he knows everything. And he looks at him and says, "He knows nothing, but in 3 weeks he will be number one." And I said, "Yes." And we got the deal. And as you said, for a whole month, I probably slept in the office working and learning. And we got the deal, and then it was really good. And we did it for a couple of years to help them launch, and it was amazing. So I sometimes it's about saying, "Yeah, we'll do it," even though we don't exactly know how we're going to do it. And then we solve that. So what was the what was the first step in going into entrepreneurship? What took you? You did this marketing, you're scaling, you're head of a team.
I don't know if you remember this, Nir, but you actually helped me figure out what was my first step in entrepreneurship. In a workshop I was then part of EO Southeast Europe. Now I'm part of the EO Bridge chapter, European Bridge chapter. And I was part of a series of workshops online during the pandemic. I think it was really early into the pandemic, where you helped us craft our entrepreneurship story. So I have to thank you for what I'm about to say right now. So
Okay.
there was this Friday evening, 6 p.m., actually 5 minutes to 6 p.m. It was really bad weather outside. I cannot tell you, but like the world was ending, right? Imagine really a bad October day in here. When I say bad October day, like the worst autumn rain you can imagine, and really stormy and dark. And my daughter was then just 8 months old, and she was at home and she was sick. And I was looking at the clock and seeing how everything is ticking. To get back home, we were part of the transaction with Adecco. So Adecco was taking over the company that I was involved with. I was offered the marketing management for Europe for Adecco as a position, and I had two more pending, one which was for Ubisoft, which I still would have loved to take into gaming, and another one which I'm not going to disclose. But in this really, really bad, weather and stormy weather and dark and everything, I was looking at the clock, the seconds took so long. And then my CEO came, amazing guy, but he had this idea about pushing the team really hard. And he called a management meeting. In that moment, I knew that I'm not gonna continue to work, to have to choose between my family and my job. And I dropped everything and I left for home. And then when I came back the next week, I told them that I'm resigning. I stayed through the transaction because management and everything was mandatory. And I started my first consulting practice, which is NNC Services. I still own this business, which is really dear to my heart. All of them are, but this one in particular stayed with me the longest. However, now mind you, I had already a lot of consulting contracts on the side. So I didn't I don't know, it's maybe more dramatic if I said I stepped into the dark, but I didn't. I really had a lot of consulting projects on the side, and even Adecco stayed with me in a consulting project, and my former employee and so on. For a long time, we still worked together on some projects. So I think it was back then, I would have become an entrepreneur. Now I know for sure. I already had for the other consulting businesses a web development sort of entity, but I was a self-employed. But at that moment, I became the employee. I should have rehearsed a bit more the speech that you told me how to do, but I didn't. Thanks.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I remember the session we did. We were supposed to do it in person, and then we said, okay, if the pandemic
Yeah.
is over, I'll come and do it with you guys in person. Um, there's something about the fact that you remember that for me is it's impactful that we can make an impact doing this over a camera. That you remember that and you rehearse the story and so first of all, thank
It
you.
was very important because it was a moment of realizing when I had to choose between being an employee and being an entrepreneur, and it was a very conscious choice. But before the workshop that we did with you, I was not aware that was the moment. Like I thought it just happened, but at that moment I realized when it happened.
Yeah, it's you know that the reason why I'm doing all these story sessions and my upcoming book, Fuck the Slides, which talks about how to create a compelling story and not a boring presentation and all that. A lot of it came from an EO event. We were in a mentorship event in Dublin, and I asked a very simple question. I asked one of the EO members, I said, hey, there's this great vibe between you and your wife. She was together with us the whole day, and they're laughing, and she's teasing him, and they've been married for a long time. They have a few kids. And I said, how did you guys meet? It feels like an interesting story. And he said, oh, that's a great story. And as he was telling it, and more people started to stand around us and smile, holding their drinks, I felt something. And he's Brian Keegan. I interviewed him on the show, and he's an amazing storyteller. And when he finished the story, he said, such a good story. This is what EO is all about for me. I want to meet as many EO members and listen to their stories. And I did the tour in 2018 and meeting you guys. And now I'm doing another one in various chapters. And it's amazing to me that every entrepreneur I meet, when you tell your story now, I feel that it inspires me to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we're fueling one another
Yeah.
by meeting, by talking, by enhancing. I love it. You know, it's interesting. How do you manage to keep a consulting company alive? For many people, they see it. You and I, we're the consulting company. When we leave, the consulting company dies. How did you manage to scale? What was behind that?
Um, when I initially started the company, as I said, it was more of an impulse. But customers, for example, because my background was mostly in strategy, customers were coming to me, like IT entrepreneurs were getting to me with a question of, I'm stuck, I cannot grow the business anymore, or I don't know what price do I put on this product, or questions of existential importance for their business. We would work together. I was doing research for them. We would work in workshops together to come up with a plan, an action plan that's something that they can execute and see some results and solve some of the challenges. But unfortunately, they would come back later on and say, oh, I know not know what I have to do, but nobody can do it for me. You have to do it for me. And soon enough, that became more than a person can do. So I started hiring the first employees. Now, every time I was hiring the first employees, I was looking at the people that I was interviewing as a potential partner. And even though they were young and so on, I was looking, is that someone I would marry professionally? Like, can I spend 8 hours a day looking at these people across the desk, or things like that? So I had this kind of I also had the freedom, because one of the companies that I was working for provided for the office and so on. So I had quite a lot of help starting off in terms of a network of support. I didn't have money; it was zero funded, but I really had a lot of network of support to push this through. And that made it really easy to have people that are really engaged and supporting and so on. I inherited this, let's say, idea of having a really healthy culture that you enjoy from previous jobs that I had, where I've seen the bad and the good in terms of how you can manage employees and so on. Back then, there was in technology, there was extreme programming, which was, I believe, the ancestor of agile development right now. So there were different aspects of how to keep everyone in the loop and how to communicate, etc. So that became the way that we made really good hires initially. And some of those people actually became partners in the business. I have two partners in the business in Romania. I have, because I was able to, and we were able to expand the business in other markets, I have other partners in other markets where we establish business. In Romania, where the business started, I have two partners which grew from some of the first company employees. Then together with them, in a couple of years, we actually caught, so the company is founded in 2006. We caught a crisis in 2008. And together with them, during that crisis, because we had time, uh, not too many customers, but we had time, we decided how we want to, grow the business. We started specializing in different areas. For example, on top of strategy, we started building each company section, like communications and lead generation and performance, SEO, and so on. These became different divisions that had their own leadership team, but that still work together. And I believe that something that you said caught my attention. Through this business, I learned a couple of years ago, actually, that the bottleneck in my business is me. And the moment that I was able to put a CEO in the business, and right now actually the title is general manager, but the moment I was able to name someone else that took care of the whole management of the company, I was able to focus much more on the important growth, let's say, aspects of the business. That's how we were able to scale. If I would still be the one 100% in charge, the company would still be, I think, smaller than it is at the moment. So does that answer your question?
I think, first of all, I think it does. I think it has a lot to do with you saying it's about putting the right people. But in order to put the right people in place, you need to understand how to interview correctly. And I think that's a bottleneck as well, not just us to scale a business, but also we need to know how to interview, what's the process, how to let go of employees who do not fit that culture, right? This whole process is so complicated for many of us, especially for those looking to scale the first few employees in a consulting company, especially. I think that's important. I want to ask you a different question about that. What do you think about juniors that have zero experience versus highly experienced, more mature employees?
It's a really good question, because I love people that are just starting up. Most of the people that grew with the company are people that have just starting up with us. I will tell you about some of the first hires, and I'm probably gonna share with them this episode, and I'm sure that you will get some feedback. One of the first hire was, first of all, I couldn't afford to pay too much salary. So that means I didn't have a choice. I had to hire people that were starting off. But then later on, I realized when we tried hiring more senior personnel, that they couldn't fit with our culture, that they were all coming with a certain professional pattern and so on, that it was really hard to change or adapt. So it was easier for people to be trained in this new sort of culture than starting off, than if they were really mature professionally. Even today, we are considered one of the biggest pools of marketing technology talent in the area, and I'm proud of that, let's say, of that reputation in terms of an employer. Now, with the first employees, Ermina, which was my first assistant, she also did project management in Microsoft projects. Like, there was this project with students across Europe, Pandora. She had no idea. One of the smartest people I ever met. She wasn't even confident in her own abilities, and I was just throwing her into the water, and she was able to do it. Right now, she's an amazing tech lead in a company in the UK. Then the second hire was another intern which is Matilda Atanaskov. She is actually the digital marketing manager for IBM global right now. And we have a whole department that's called NNC in IBM because they took many, they sort of drift many people in that direction. Sometimes you cannot beat, these big guys that come with amazing opportunities. But what I think was their enthusiasm, their passion for this space. It was really obvious how smart they are. I was looking for analytical people that can connect the dots. I was looking for, interesting people that can spur a conversation even outside, let's say 2 + 2 = 4. I actually usually as an entrepreneur, never 2 + 2 makes 4. But anyway, so yeah, I think that hiring, at least early on, interns and people starting off and so on, it's an amazing way to scale. Later on, of course, we started hiring, like right now, the team prefers to hire like in project management positions and so on, really senior staff. But I still hold off to some projects that are a spin-off from the main business, where I hire a lot of interns and deal with them personally, because I love to see how people grow and develop.
I love that. Yeah, I see it the same way with juniors that know nothing and then become something. And then it's always something interesting. And question, by the way, we just had one of my former managers came for coffee. She just her baby's now 5 6 months old. She came to the office and she told us, I just gave her a recommendation for a global company that she's going to lead something very big there on a global scale. And she was a student. Her first year in college, I was her teacher. And then she came in, when she finished college, she came to work for us as a junior. She stayed for a few years. She left, and I don't know. I'm so proud to see what happened. What she became, and then the potential she has, and it's amazing to see that growth in 6 7 8 years. And what makes you spin off, do another business? Why aren't you just doing one? What makes you keep going and building new businesses all the time?
Some of them I couldn't say no to. Just because, I think entrepreneurs have the hardest time saying no to some of the opportunities. Like if I see someone with an amazing idea that they're just missing maybe marketing knowledge or sales, I'm in the B2B space. And I know that, a bit of time spent with us can unlock a huge potential of growth for them, or with myself. Sometimes they are too small and cannot afford maybe the services of an agency and so on. Then I'm like, yeah, why not? But then what I realized is what I am good at, and I'm not good at processes. I get bored with procedures. But on the same time, that helps the company grow, right? And for example, 10, 15 years down the road, if you still want to have people that would choose to stay with your company as a partner and not go as a digital marketing manager for I don't know what corporation worldwide, that these things must happen with your company, which means that that's one of the reasons. First of all, I ended up with a really bad burnout a few years back, and that forced a change in terms of I named someone to manage the business, but I still have this entrepreneurship edge where I see opportunities everywhere. And for example, I have investments in real estate. There was an amazing Mayo event about real estate investment this morning. and I have about $1 million investment in real estate. So I really wanted to know how I can grow that. That's not a spin-off from NNC. That's a different thing. Again, amazing ideas that I can see that I can really easily materialize. Usually it takes me a couple of years to take any business that's, I don't know, even from an idea or up to $50,000, $100,000 into the 2, 3, 5 million kind of dollars. Then I get bored. That's when a management team needs to happen. That's when processes need to happen and so on. And
And
usually
you have a
that's the moment.
methodology to take it, like I find an idea, this is how I decide it's relevant, this is how I take it to 100K, and this is how I scale it. You have like something you repeat for yourself.
Uh, I think it is becoming more structured with any business and any idea and so on. Initially was, let's say, very individually dependent on the entities, especially since some of these are NGOs. And trust me, scaling an NGO is really tough, especially in education. But some of them are repeatable. So, for example, services business in general, where I believe that I have a real edge. I don't know, talking to some EOer in France, he got from, I don't know, 500,000 to $1.5 million in, I think, less than 2 years, right? Just unlocking and just advising over the call in a couple of calls. It wasn't even me. I think it was more him there. So I think I'm starting to have a methodology there for such cases. It's not formalized in any way, but I have some checkpoints where I start looking through the list in terms of marketing and sales. I am actually coaching. I started coaching strictly for some topics, and that will become part of the larger methodology. For example, I do ABM coaching quite a bit with entrepreneurs. Account-based marketing for B2B marketing and sales. By the way, it's free for EOers, and there's a coaching program starting on the 11th of October. Not to, I mean, I hope you can cut this and you can edit this out. But I'm saying it because I know a lot of viewers went through it and they really value it. So I hope that we can help more people.
Yeah, maybe I'm interested. It's amazing to me that the more I do marketing, the more things sprung up along the year over the years. Like do this, do this. There's a methodology, there's a concept, there's a line, and as was I don't know, moving forward with different types of marketing and things like that. And I think also this part of this podcast as well to get exposure is not about selling EO, but rather helping young entrepreneurs learn more about entrepreneurship. And as I'm listening to you talk about, I don't know, real estate, as an EO member, I didn't have any real estate, but I started to explore and I started to talk and I started to meet, and suddenly I'm doing this. We're optimizing the way the business works by meeting other people. So I think there's a lot to do with experience share and mentoring and stuff. And I think it's many of the members that I've interviewed over the last couple of months, same as you said, we're also giving back, either doing these or mentoring or coaching. And I think it's amazing. By the way, I think it's I hope when we launch the accelerator in Romania for EO, you'll be part of it. I have a feeling that you have a lot to give.
I'd love to. We're looking
Yeah,
forward to see an accelerator here.
yeah. I can tell you that we're doing some testing over in Romania with leads, and amazing companies are reaching out that are relevant for an accelerator. And I think, I don't know, for someone from Israel, it's so amazing to see that there's a relevant, vibrant ecosystem, whether it's Romania or I know we're talking about Stockholm or Vienna or Sofia, Bulgaria. It's always amazing to see that there's so many places where there's a vibrant ecosystem of entrepreneurs looking to build and scale. I know we have a hard stop as you have a meeting and I have a call. And I wanted to say, first of all, a huge thank you. And I think we only touched on a little bit of the things. Maybe we need to do another episode in a few months with you. I have a lot of different questions. Any last words, something you want to share with us before we leave?
Well, first of all, thanks again for inviting me. I hope that this inspires especially women entrepreneurs. I know that there's a lot of exposure for women entrepreneurs these days, but I think that that's happening because we have not so many women entrepreneurs. And if I can help anybody, please reach out via the EO channels or via LinkedIn. I don't know, if you're not part of the EO, I'd be happy to help, at least advise you on where you can find more information or how you can unlock a bit more on the topics that are of concern to you.
I think, first of all, thank you for that. And as we're reaching a certain threshold of over 20 episodes, I felt that we needed more women. And I can say that over a dozen women with interesting businesses like yourself have stepped up. And I can't wait to see and meet and listen to more women like you talk about their journey. And I find it very inspiring and a very different one. So that's one thing. And I think also seeing that so many of us have women in leadership positions in our companies is also important to promote. And same goes for coaching and mentoring. Lori, I want to say a huge thank you. It's been a pleasure. And to anyone listening and watching, keep going. Enjoy your journey. It's never easy, but it's always interesting and fun if you make it fun. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. You'll have my details and Lori's details in the video. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everyone. Lori, thank you so much.
Thank you.